Hi, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scraps. Floof is on my desk because today is probably the squirreliest squirrel video I've ever made. I started with the What's on My Desk challenge, and I don't generally keep a lot of things on my desk, and even when I've got scraps and such, I keep them, contained. And these are my latest scraps that I've been working with and intending to do something. So I thought I'd do a What's on My Desk challenge and then, whoops, sorry about that, make things based on my scrap busters list. I've got the scrap busters that I make and to fill up my bin. So that was my intention. Oh, before I do that, I wanted to say a huge thank you to Wendy, Pat, and Cheryl. Your thoughtful treats really brightened my day, and I appreciate them immensely. Thank you. Okay, so back to what's on my desk. I was going to make some scrap notepads, some window pockets, and some strip snippet roll. And that's actually something I haven't made before, but I thought what we could do is these are strips, offcuts for this little mini journal that I am going to show you guys how to do in a couple different ways. And so rather than a standard snippet roll, what I thought I would do is just cut down some scraps to, a half-inch width and then whatever designated length, and just do a snippet roll that way. I thought that'd be kind of cool and a great way to use scraps. And I really enjoy using scraps. I know not everybody does, but I like it. So that's what I was going to make. That was my first intention and started off in that direction. Then I was listening to Gail's Scrappy Saturday video. It was playing in the background as I was, putting some things together and such. And I thought, oh, very cool. And as I was looking at Gail's video, I looked at my list, my junk journal ideas and inspiration. That's the Facebook group with Mandy and Justine. And I was finishing up, am I even remotely in frame? There we go. I was finishing up my bingo card, and I had to copy Justine and copy Mandy and copy Julie. I mean, it doesn't say that. Doesn't say copy them, but it was, make something inspired by a video that they have done or a project that they've shared, kind of a thing. And on that note, I had some things on my desk. So I've got these cards with copying them, and then I've got a project that Carrie Fellows from Witchcraft Do You Do did that I have had on my to-do list for a long time. So I thought, well, since I'm copying Julie and Mandy and Justine, I might as well copy Carrie too. And then I thought, oh, I want to make those really cool fold-over rectangular pockets that Tracy made, Tracy Fox from Tracy Fox Creative. So I thought, well, since I'm copying everybody else, I'll copy her. And then Gail Augustinelli had a video a couple months back. She shared the journal she made at a retreat, and she had some faux front envelopes that I really wanted to make. So I thought, well, I'm just going to copy everybody. And then I thought, well, gosh, in my copy, be inspired by pile, I had this really cool tag on, library pocket with an insert from Dawn Klein. And I thought, well, that's really cool. And I've had it in my, I want to copy and make this pile for a while. So I thought, well, since I'm copying everybody, I'll copy her too. And then someone sent me this, and I thought that was really cool, a large window, and I was going to copy that. And this is from Frida Gepner. I placed an order with her, and I wanted to make a small version of the scrap pad. I mean, I make scrap pads all the time, but I really love the gated window or gated opening that she created with it. So I've been wanting to copy her. And then this, I don't even know what this is from. Must have had it for a really long time, but it's been in my copy for forever. I was going to do it the opposite of what they did. They did up to fold down, and I thought I would do a down and fold up kind of a thing. So my next plan was just to copy everybody because I've got these copyings that I want to do. And then I thought, well, gosh, maybe I need to, where did I put it? I need to make some mini clusters. So that would be a really long video to copy everybody. But I need some mini tiny clusters. My cluster bin is almost empty, and I don't have very many of the really, really small ones. So I thought, okay, I'll copy me and make some mini clusters. And this is an an kind of, I didn't copy it exactly, but one of the faux front envelopes in Gail's video, I changed it up a bit and I made one of those faux front envelopes using scraps because I can, because I wanted to. And then there's this side, and then the pocket pulls out with the journaling card kind of a thing. So I've got those, and I thought, well, I can make mini clusters. I could do my copy video, and then I'm like, no, I'll make mini clusters instead, because the copy video would be way too long. So that would be bad. And then while I was putting this together, I got out my little itty bitty mini lace scrap thing, and I've been wanting to empty this out forever. And I bought this at an antique store a while ago, and I thought, rectangle or heart-shaped or circle or whatever, I would use some of my scrap bits and make some of these. So my next squirrel was to do a scrap lace project and share how I was going to utilize the scrap lace. And then I was still listening to Gail's Scrappy Saturday, and she was making some dangles using fabric and lace, and I thought, oh, I have lace scraps and I wanted to use lace scraps. So I squirreled in that direction, and I got some of my ribbon crimps out, and I was going to do that. And then as I was doing this, I thought, I'm not quite sure. Oh, I know why. I was making things with the ribbon and lace, right? Using some of those lace scraps. And I thought, gosh, I have been wanting to put some dried flowers on the fronts of things and sew them on. So I've got, the projects I was doing with the dried flowers, just a bunch of different things, wanting to use up a specific set of dried flowers. Well, and then Gail's video finished, and the, how YouTube just pops a video in next when you don't push your buttons? Well, it popped in an envelope that Sandy at Septeria 18 made. And it's essentially a two-sided envelope, really simple project. She used half of a 12 by 12. So she used a 6 by 12. And she made this really cute little envelope, and it's a little bit different, but it's essentially the same thing. So you've got an envelope pocket in the front, and I just made this kind of a closure to close it, and then it's got a little wraparound envelope in the back, and then you can put whatever in there, a journaling card or what have you. This was two-sided paper, so I just tucked the other piece in there. And so she gave the dimensions and where you score and such to make these. And then, because I had the dried flowers out, I thought, oh, that would be fun to put the dried flowers underneath a piece of window film or transparency on top of these little envelopes before you glue the whole thing together. And that is where I landed. So finally, I'm going to show you what I'm making on the video today. And I don't know why it was so difficult for me, but Flu helped me out, and this is what we're going to do. All right, so Sandy did it with a 6 by 12, but I've been working and trying to use some of the digitals that I've got. I've got quite a few, and then I've got scraps that go with them, so I thought I'm going to see if I can alter it a little bit, because, I like to alter it, and use a digital instead, which is, everybody's printer is just a little bit different. So even though I made exact score measurements, I figured out a way to do it where you don't really need exact score measurements. So you can use any of your larger scraps. This is the size for the 8.5 by 11. This is about, the transparency there glares. This is the size, the 8.5 by 11, because, your print area, and you have to trim it down. So it's not a true 8.5 by 11, but close. And here's the same thing. There's the pocket on the front. I used transparency and a dried flower to put my embellishment on, and then you've got the pocket in the back for journaling card, tags, what have you. It's really simple, and I thought that was kind of fun. Great way to use some leftover digital. And did another one with these really pretty purple flowers. I don't use purple very often, but I had been gifted some gorgeous thick textured purple paper, and they went with these flowers and went with this digital, and it was just a happy thing. And this one I used a bit of Velcro on because I wanted to change it up a bit. I didn't stuff these pockets yet because I'm not 100% sure what project they're going to go into. They're just going to go into my stash for now. But here I used Velcro, and here I just used, put an eyelet in there to make it heavier to hold it down. And then I thought, well, in true scrap fashion, I grabbed one of my offcuts of a digital, and I made the smaller one. Because, like I said, I wanted to try to do it without having to use score lines and, or a scoreboard, I should say, or specific measurement for a scoreboard. And I wanted to be able to use any old scraps with it. And so that's what this is. This is the same thing. There's a dried flower on the front with some window film and a pocket. And then on the back, there is another pocket. Now, I didn't embellish this because, I wanted to put it flat, but you certainly could. You could embellish it. So I am going to show you how you can do this without, let's see, I didn't fold that great. Okay, there we go. Without a scoreboard and without specific measurements. Now, I'm going to give the specific measurements if you're using 8.5 by 11, just simply because some people like the measurements. But I'm going to show you how you can do it. And I'm going to make this without using the scoreboard. This, if you're scoring the length, you turn it sideways so that the length of the paper is down your scoreboard, and you score it at 1 1/4 inches and then 5 1/8. So 1 1/4 and 5 1/8, and I'll put this in the description box below. And then you turn it, and then on the length is going to be facing you, so it's horizontal now. And you're going to score there at 1/2 inch and then 5 1/2 inches, or between 5 1/4 and 5 1/2, so 5 3/8 ish. It doesn't have to be exact because everybody's printer prints their paper a little bit different, and even mine, I found when I was trimming off the white bits that it doesn't always come out exactly the same depending on the digital. So that's kind of a general guideline, which is also what made me think, if I can just fold this rather than having to score it at specific dimensions, that would be great. Now, this is cardstock, so, and it's I printed images on both sides. It will be easier to score it just to make sure that it's straight, but I'm not going to. All right, first thing I'm going to do, because this is sort of directional, I'm going to probably use this side as the outside, and then the pretty pattern will be inside. Because if I did it this way, then my flowers are sideways, and my pocket would be upside down. And I know that doesn't bother some people, but it bugs the heck out of me. And if I go the other way, then my measurements are great, but my tag and my flowers are upside down, and I don't care for that when it's just me. So even though this is absolutely beautiful, it is going to be on the inside. And I am going to fold it up. So it's, like I said, it's just a smidge over 8 and just a smidge over 10 is what's remaining. So I'm going to pick up the bottom, and I'm going to fold about 2 3/4 to 3 inches. It's not exact, 2 3/4 to 3, and I'm going to try to make it straight. Now, if you've got a scoreboard, you can certainly score, but I didn't want to have to use a scoreboard on this, so I folded it up about, well, let's see, between 2 3/4 and 3 ish, and then I'm going to press that down. And then the top, I'm going to turn it on just because it's easier for me. I want to overlap this just a little bit, like maybe by 1/4 inch or so. So I'm going to fold this down, or maybe a 1/2 inch, something along those lines. Fold it down. And this part I find a lot harder to get straight. So I'm going to use the lines on my desk to help me out. And I'll put my magnets there. And these are just magnets with handles. I got them on Amazon. So I'm going to use this to help me make it mostly straight. Now, like I said, I'm not using a scoreboard, so it's not going to be 100% perfect, but That I can live with because I can roll it later if I need to. Okay. And I don't think that's perfectly straight, but that's all right. Okay, so I've folded this part, right? Now I need to fold about 1/2 inch on one of the two sides, and it really truly doesn't matter which one. And it's just about 1/2 inch, more or less. So I'm going to fold both pieces, and yes, it's thick, so it's getting a little chunky, but that's okay. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. About 1/2 inch. Then I am going to keep that folded up, and I'm going to leave the front facing down, and I'm going to take the back, but I'm not going to match it up. See, right here would be a match up. I'm going to go a smidge past it, because I found what happens if you don't go just a little past that, when you cut and you fold it, it's just a bit short. So I'm going to go just a bit past it and put my crease here. Okay, and again, this is cardstock. I don't know what weight cardstock it is, but it's cardstock. And so this is getting really bulky, but it's okay because it works. And it's mostly straight too, so that's really nice. All right, then I'm going to open it up like this. This is going to be the majority of my envelope. I need this section right here to be the pocket that flaps around on the back. So I'm going to cut away, and this is what the card piece in the back, that's what this is. So if I'm looking at this, if it's facing me, the piece with the 1/2 inch fold is to my left, or it could be to the right. But if you look at this as, oh, this is my envelope, I'm not going to cut any of this, and I need this piece to wrap around, you're cutting off the first two sections. Now, I have a hard time seeing it with when I'm cutting, so what I do is I get my ruler as my straight edge, and I use a pencil line. That's going to get cut off, so I'm not going to see it, so I don't really mind. And then I am cutting to this fold. I want to leave this bottom section intact. So there's 1, 2, 3, or A, B, C sections on that right-hand side. I want to leave the C section intact. So I'm not going to put a pencil mark on there, even though I could certainly erase it later. And I'm going to do the same thing and put a line so I can see where I'm cutting on the bottom. Now, if you've got lighter paper or you can see where you're cutting, you don't need to do that step. But I struggle with seeing where I'm cutting. And then when I cut, I am going to cut just to the left of my pencil line, because this is the part that's going to be the envelope flap in the back. It's going to make that pocket. This piece is going to be trimmed down for my journaling card or a booklet or what have you. So I'm going to cut just to the left of that line. If you've got one of the Fiskars trimmers that you can start and stop, this is a great use for that, because I'm not a super, oh gosh, there we go. Let's move that down a bit. Sorry about that. This is a great use for that. See, so it's not perfectly straight, but it's mostly straight. And you can see the pencil line is right here. Okay, I'm going to move back a bit to make sure I'm in frame. Sorry about that. All right, so here you can see the pencil line is cut off, and then I'm going to do the same thing. I'll fold it over, and I'm going to cut up here, and I'm going to cut again just to the left of the pencil line that I made. I keep trying to get out of the way of the cord with my, the microphone, and I keep getting it caught in there, which is why I keep pushing this forward this way to get it out of the way. So I'm going to try to keep that in frame. And again, I'm cutting just to the left of the pencil line. Okay, so I'm going to save this because I'll use that later. All right, so now it's looking more like my envelope. Right here's my flap for the back, folding it up, folding it down, folding it around. Okay, that's in the end, that's what we're going to do. Now I need to cut this section, the 1/2 inch bit, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut piece 1 and 2, or A and B, whichever you want to call it. And I can see this well enough that I'm not going to use a pencil line, but you can use a pencil line if you want. And this time, and I'm going to do the same thing and cut just to the left of where the pencil line would be, or in this case, where the crease is. And then just to the score of section C, just to that bit. And I'm going to cut off that piece. So when it's all said and done, you're going to have a section that looks like this. You're going to have 2 bottom flaps and then 3 sections in the center. All right, this is the point where you ink, 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 if you choose to. Now, and you can see on here, I've rounded these curves just because I feel like it makes it look more like an envelope. So I'm going to do that now and round these corners. This is going to be my top flap. So it'll roll like this, and this will be my top flap. So I'm going to round these 2 corners, and I'll give them a bigger round. This is the We Are Memory Keepers corner punch, and it's We Are, just the letter R, Memory Keepers, and they sell them on Amazon, and they are not spendy. It's a great tool just simply because you get 3 sizes and it's one tool. All right, now I am going to ink, and I'll move this over here, and I'll try to ink quickly, simply because it's notably easier to ink if you're going to ink before you glue, before you put everything together. I can do the edges and back later, but this section, it's just a lot easier to do now before I fold and glue. You know, while I'm inking, I might as well share. I had this thought, I have scrap busters, and I love doing scrap busters. And I've got a video series on that if you're new to the channel, because I like using scraps and I like coming up with ways to use scraps. But I really need 2 sections. I need a scrap makers like this. This would be a scrap maker and a scrap buster, so that I kind of balance the 2 so I don't get overrun with scraps or not have enough scraps. Okay, honestly, it hasn't ever happened that I don't have enough scraps, but conceivably it could, because I do choose to use scraps most often when I'm creating. I just like the challenge of coming up with ways. Plus, I think the freedom because I know if I make a mistake or if I make something that I don't really care for, it's not a big deal. It's a scrap. And let's see, it's going to go, that's going to be, let me think, what did I do? Oh, that's right. It's going to go, this is the outside. So this folds up, this folds around. I just want to make sure I ink what needs inking. I lost track of what I was saying. I know it's something about scrap makers and scrap busters. I know, because if I make something I really don't care for, or I'm not pleased with the final project, with card making, you've spent a long time on a card and you want to keep it even if you don't necessarily love it. Same thing with scrapbooking, you have a layout and paper's spendy and you make something with it, and even if you don't really love it, you kind of want to keep it. So more hesitant to play and try and do things like that. Whereas with this, if I'm using scraps and I really don't love it, I can put it aside and review it later, or just toss it, because every once in a while, I think everybody makes something that they don't really love or they're not pleased with. All right, now I'm going to take, it's not absolutely necessary, but I find it helpful. I just take a little corner. This is going to be the flap. Okay, here we go. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So here is my open piece, right, my cut piece. This is going to flip up, and that's going to be the front pocket. This is going to flip around. That'll be my back pocket. And this little tab right here is going to be what holds it closed and wraps it around. So what I generally do with these so that they don't stick out the bottom is I'll take a little corner off of it from the fold crease. I just take off a little bit of a corner, and then that I don't have to worry about it sticking out. So that's what that is. And that's not going to show, which is why I'm not inking that. All right, now If you are not going to put a dried flower on, or if you're not going to do something that requires sewing, now is the time to glue. However, I am going to put something on here that requires sewing, and I am going to put a piece of dried flower on here like I did the others. So that's why I'm not gluing it yet. I'm going to fold this piece down. So I make sure that I don't put my image, my embellishment, my dried flower, below where I want it to go. I'm just going to grab a paper clip to hold that down for now. All right, now I'm going to put my dried flower on here, and I've got, see, it's just a little bit too tall, but then again, I guess it could go under. Nope, you know what, I'm going to trim that off. I had grabbed this one and inked it up before I started this, but I didn't check for fit. So I will, and I'd already put the date on it, so I want to use this one. So I'll just take that bottom bit off. I think that'll fit. Yeah, that'll work. And then I will round these corners. Let's see what size round. Yeah, that looks about right. Round those corners. And I will ink that section because it's going to get glued down and there's no way I'm inking it afterwards. All right, I think I want it on this side. On the others, this one took up the whole thing. This one is on the left. This one is on the right. Do I want to put it in the middle? Well, let me grab the flowers first and let's play with it a bit. These are flowers. I didn't purchase these. I just, last year when we were on a hike, I picked them up and dried them. So that's going to be a little bit long. I'm going to trim that off. I have no idea what kind of flower this is. It's purple flower. So I apologize if you want to know, because I don't. I think I like it on this side. So let's do that. I am going to glue it down here. Now I'm not going to glue it all the way to the bottom. I'll ink that later. I'm not going to glue it all the way to the bottom because I'm going to put a piece of window transparency. I've got some scraps of window film up here. Transparency that I had got a box teaching many years ago, and I still have it. So I've got some scraps there. It's going to be the right size. So I'm not going to put this all the way to the bottom because I want to sew that film on, but I do want it to fit. So okay, right about there. Okay, put some glue on the back of this and put it down. You can, just make a bunch of these envelopes and decorate them later if you're not going to do this piece. Or if you're not going to sew on it. All right, how about right there? Okay. Oh shoot, you know what? I put a little piece here to see if I wanted to put, no, I don't want anything behind it. I really like the color and I want that to stand out. All right, I've got some other little bits on the flowers, so I'll play with those a little bit, like this one. So I kind of want the date to show, but I guess it doesn't really have to. I don't want that sideways. There, how about something like that? My end frame, yeah. I kind of like that, so I'm just going to put a little bit of glue down just to kind of tack it in place. And that way, if I need to trim it a little bit more, I can. I guess the date doesn't really have to show. But I've got some loose bits of flowers too, and I think I might I might just tuck that in just because it's real pretty. So I'll put a little bit of glue down here. You know what I could do? Oh, there we go. That one was a loose one. I'll put hit. That's too short. I'll put this one. Let's see, is that side? I want it to go this way. Yeah, that's kind of pretty. And the date shows better. Oh yeah, kind of fills in that gap. And again, the glue is just to kind of hold it in place while before I sew it. Oh, you know what? That's enough. I don't need any more. It's going to get really thick. All right. Now I'm going to trim the bottom of that off before I put my window film on, or transparency. There we go. Okay, that will work. Sometimes I'll put a piece of tape on that. I didn't on this one. I used a staple. I didn't use a tape on this one. Well, on these ones I didn't, but sometimes I do. Oh, here we go. I put a piece of tape on that one. No, I didn't put tape on those. Anyway, sometimes I put a little piece of tape just to kind of hold it in place. But this is working pretty well, so I'm just going to put some glue right there to hold that stem down. Well, that didn't work so great. Okay. But I do see the specimen label looks like it has tape on it, so I want to enhance that. And this is the faux aged cellophane tape. To make this, I could show you a video, but honestly, there's several out there, and it's so easy. You get regular cellophane tape, you know, office tape, what have you, and you put it on baking sheets, and then you get alcohol ink. I use latte and caramel, but you know, you can choose the colors that you like. But those are the two I use. And you loosely put the alcohol ink right on top of the cellophane tape, and then it dries in just a couple minutes, and then I wind it around one of these plastic embroidery floss bobbins to store it. And that is honestly all there is to it. It is one of the easiest things, and yeah, just really easy to do. So it's faux aged tape basically, and I keep them on hand because I like to use it. I like the faux aged look. Cut off a little bit of that. Oh, you know what? I should have measured. Well, I'll save that piece. I should have measured here because I want it to be this length. I want it to go right there. So about that long, just tear it off. And I find I've used both. I actually like, this is not the Scotch brand, this is an off brand, but I actually prefer the Scotch tape because it's just a little bit thicker and it gives you raggedy tears, whereas this one tends to tear straight, and I don't really want it to be super straight. I want a little bit of a raggedy look, but it still works. Just if you're going to purchase tape, or if you don't have any on hand, I think the Scotch brand works a little bit better for what we use here. So I'll just, I don't know, rough up the edge a little bit so that it doesn't look so straight. And this is taped enough. Oh, you know what? I don't have to. Sometimes if I'm not going to put transparency on top of it to hold it in place, I'll put a bit of glue stick on the back of this to make sure it stays down. But I'm going to put a piece of window film on top of this, or transparency, so it's going to stay. It's not going to go off. See, it just kind of ties in that look. Or since the label had it on there anyway, it enhances it. That's a better way to put it. All right. Now I'm ready for, let's see, what size window film. And normally I have to cut it, but this one I'm not going to cut because I think that fits pretty darn good. Is this one a little bit better? No, you know what? That one works fine. And so what I do is I hold the window film in place, and I grab a piece of the low tack tape, and I will put it down to hold the window film in place on just one spot or one side. And talk amongst yourselves for a moment. I'm going to go sew this. You know what? I'll bring it up here. Let's see, so you can see what I do. I don't do anything special with my sewing machine. I just, sorry, moving it over. I didn't plan for that part, but let's see if I can't make it work. Okay, now I've got a light over here, so I've got to unplug my machine and replug it in around that light cord. And that's just so you don't get as many shadows. At least I hope you don't get as many shadows. All right. I will put my machine up here, and I will bring the arm out just a bit, and let's see if I can angle it so you can see. There we go. Well, maybe that'll work. All right, and now I'm just going to sew around that window film. My setting on my machine is a 2. I can't adjust the bottom tension anymore because I broke the knob off. So just a standard setting and a standard needle. I don't remember what size, but it's pretty basic, pretty standard, the one that most people use for everything. All right, And here we go. Just going to sew around that window film, the transparency. There we go. And I've still got that tape on the one piece, and I'll keep it on there just to make sure this stays straight until I get to that section. I broke the cord for the foot pedal, so I have to use the thumb pedal, I guess is what we should call it, or auto pedal on this one. All right, now I'm going to peel off that piece of low tack tape. Maybe. This is the thumb that I cut, and so the nerves at the end of it, I can't always feel things correctly. It'll heal eventually, but for now I don't always. I have trouble picking some things up with that thumb. Back stitch, and I keep a little pair of scissors on a magnet. The magnet is not on my machine, it's on the plastic casing, because I know some magnets can mess up a sewing machine, but in this case it's on the plastic side. And that way I just have these little scissors that I only use for threads. All right, and I save that piece of low tack tape on the side of my machine because you can use it more than once. And let's see if I can put the machine back. Okay, there we go. Why is there, oh, I know, because I changed it. That's why there's that nasty arm light. And let's see if I can do that. Well, I'm going to leave that here so you don't have to see that ugly light. And all right, here we go. Sewn on. Now I've got that piece sewn in place. Now I can glue. I'm going to flip it up so you can see the embellishment that I put on there. Dried flower. This is going to fold down, and I'll wrap this around the back, and this piece folds over. And remember, when we first folded this, we folded it a little extra so you can see it's a little extra long. Because of the roll and the flap, I want to make sure that I've got it where I want it, basically. So I'll have to trim this edge a bit, which is what I wanted to do. So just mark it with a pencil, and I will trim. And again, I did that so that I wouldn't have to measure everything and score it. Okay, that will work nicely. I'll just get a little bit of ink before I glue it down. And now I roll this flap down flat, and I've rolled the flap over the envelope, and I'll put glue on that little flap, and then I'll put a bead of glue along the bottom of the back of the envelope. And then the second pocket, the back pocket, we're going to fold this over and glue and glue. And yes, I always get glue that seeps out, but that's okay. I'd rather have it glued tight. And I could clamp it, but I don't need to. And there's my back pocket. And normally I would grab that card and put it in, but I know there's that nasty light there, so I'm going to not put it in. But I know that I've got a journal card in the same paper line that I can tuck in that back. Just going to give the back a little bit of ink and then flip it over to the front, and that's all inked up. And there is our envelope. Now, on a couple of them, this one I used a paper clip to hold it closed. Here I did that Velcro with a tab. It can be any tab. It doesn't have to be a whale tail. I just happened to have that done. Here I didn't put any Velcro, but I put a whale tail. And then here I made it into a tuck, so I can tuck it in. So you can, you have options with closing it. You could even use a magnet should you choose to. I had made one of these in advance simply because I really like the color purple with the flower. And I have glue on my fingers, so now I got glue on there. That's that ugly spot. But this is an inexpensive rubber cement square, and it picks up extra glue beautifully. So that's what I've got here, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to give this a little ink before I glue it down. And I kind of like it that way. I could do it this way this time and glue the bottom. Here I did it upside down, so maybe I'll do it this way this time. Sure, why not? So what I'm going to do is put glue just on this scalloped bottom piece, and I'm going to place it right here, and then the thickness of this will hold the top of the envelope down. So hold that in place. Put the glue. And making sure that I don't tuck the edge of the envelope underneath the glue, because I don't want that to be glued down. All right, and I'll hold that for a moment and let it dry. And that is video number 198. I've been super conscientious because I know I'm getting close to 200 videos, and I want to do a giveaway at 200 videos. Maybe I'll start now. You know what? That's not a bad idea. Tell you what, if you comment below, I'll do a random draw, and I'll mail you one of these envelopes, and I'll tuck it with, I'll put some real vintage ephemera in it, and I'll put a little treat or two or something like that. But I'll mail you one of these fold over envelopes with dried flower window transparency. So if you tell me which one you like, let's see, I've got 4 or 5 here. All right, so let's go large purple. There's 2 large purple. One's a tiny bit smaller. Okay, large purple, small purple, even though they're not really that much difference. So tell me, large purple, small purple. What do I want to call this one? Green, I guess. This one would be brown, and this one would be, that's a different flower. It's not a daisy, but I don't know what it's called, so let's call it Daisy. So this one will be called Daisy. Brown, daisy, green, small purple, large purple. If you're interested in having one, put which one you'd like down in the comment section, and I'll draw a name and I'll send one to you. All right, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your kindness, well wishes. I've got a collaboration coming up with Tracy Fox pretty soon that's going to be a whole lot of fun. I've got lots of videos that I want to make and share with you, and I'm hoping to get to those sooner rather than later, but nothing will be super quick. And next weekend I am going to be with my sister, and we're not moving. We're visiting Banff National Park in Canada, which isn't too terribly far from us. Oh, it's a little bit far, but not too terribly far. Just north of Washington. Actually, it's north of Idaho, but we're going over to Idaho and heading north. So I'll be gone next weekend is my point. But I'll try to get a video out before I go if I can. And if not, well, I will see you when I get back. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your kindness and your comments. Take care, be well, and happy creating.